everybody. Oh, look, everybody's rolling in. Hello. Let's just see who is with us today. If people could just pop in the chat, let us know if you can hear us okay, see us okay, if everything's going well. I have the chat open. Let's see who is here today. Oh, it's hot here in Arizona. Hi, Dee Williams.
It's hot here too. It's 90 degrees.
Hot here.
Wow.
Too. Everywhere.
No, cooled off here. It's fantastic. Oh, and who is here? I see Roman is here and Rebecca. Hi, Donna. Hi, Becky. Hi, April. So apparently everybody is good. Hi, April is in Utah. Hi, Donna. Okay, so we're all good. We're here tonight with Peter Ciancarelli. And
Yeah.
I hope I said that right. I did it right?
Yes.
Okay, Peter is a proud dog dad from a small town called Medfield, Massachusetts. He's also a special education teacher. He works with children and young adults with autism, and he's done that for about a decade. He also runs the popular Facebook group, Allie's Canine Cancer Crew. It was his experience and setbacks with his dog, Allie, that ignited a years-long search for answers, options, and alternatives outside of the conventional information he trusted, and led to Allie's health struggles and deterioration. Since he helped her rebound on a remarkable level, it's his mission to educate and inspire others on what they can do to help their beloved pets live their best life possible. So welcome, Peter, and I am going to hand this over to Julie now.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, I was just saying this is going to be an interesting one. I was really excited to do this one because I feel like there's nothing that I think relates more to people than hearing the journey of a pet parent like that adores and loves and cherishes their animals like we all do. But I think that, you know what, I mean, you and I have worked together. We've done a few things together with Allie. And I think what you've done is sort of remarkable from a perspective of you not just giving up, right? Like you didn't leave any rock unturned or stone unturned or whatever that phrase is. I always get my phrases wrong. You were like on a mission, you know? And I think that it's just what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you talk about, I think it's so cool if you can talk about, I don't know, you can do it the way you want. Like you can do it where, you know, sort of when you contacted me with their cancer and then how it sort of evolved or the layers came off to get to the beginning, the underlying root stuff, or you can start from scratch and come up to today. It doesn't matter. Whatever feels most organic for you is totally fine with me.
Awesome. All right. Well,
and before we start, let me just say one fast thing. Everybody knows that I live on a rescue farm. And normally I have 2 people here with every single thing that I do, so that if something goes sideways and, I don't know, a duck gets stuck in the fence or a dog, whatever, doesn't matter, the dogs start barking, they can handle it. And I am alone today. So if I have to like put my video on while you're talking, come off my video, which is what I'm going to do right now, just to grab my one dog. That's why. And I'm not far, and I'll be right back.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, hey everybody. Thank you for having me on, Julie. And oh, you disappeared. I'm sorry. I guess I didn't hear that part.
No, I just said I'm letting my dog in. I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good. Well, my stepdad, Carrie, was the one that adopted Allie in 2009. He saw her on Pet Finder, And we had a dog at the time, his dog, Buster. They came from New Brunswick, Canada, to live with my mom and I. And I was young, and I think he showed me Allie on Pet Finder, and I didn't. I like things to stay the same. I don't love change. So, and I've obviously gotten a lot better with that. But I was like, no, thank you. I don't want her. I'm happy with Buster. I don't want another dog. And Allie came anyway. I remember coming home from work or school or wherever I was that day, and seeing her on the back deck, and she was just cowering behind the grill. And I remember luring her out with a piece of bread. And I remember her going across the yard where we have like the pool pump, and we have all these bushes surrounding it. And she was just like, went in there to like, and you could see her head peeking out, watching us, and she was scared, very, very scared and nervous, insecure, fearful. And she had just been transported from Tennessee on a truck. The rescue got her, and the rescue spayed her at 8 weeks old, because we got her at 9 weeks already spayed. And I remember, I don't know why she was in a crate that first night, or at first sleeping. And remember her barking, and I went out to take her out of the crate and bring her to my room to cuddle and to calm her down, etc. And she just grew up to be like those insecurities got worse, as she got older and bigger. And she would be barking out the window at passerbys, dogs, people. When I was at work, I'd get a phone call from one of my next door neighbors who loves Allie, and really cares for her, and is always keeping her eye on her, and through the big bay window, she likes to watch out. And he would call me saying, she's going to go through the window. Like, she's pounding on it bad and howling. And I'd come home, and like my bed comforter would be just exploded everywhere. The shades would be ripped in half. The furniture, the armchairs would be, fur whatever you call it, the stuffing everywhere. And she would knock the glass things off the mantle and the shelves, and it was a nightmare. It was super stressful to live with her, and I couldn't walk her. She would just drag me through town. And I remember getting a bicycle and like trying to let her trot along at a safe speed and just kind of tire her out nice and good. And obviously not when it's too hot, because you don't want to overheat. But I thought her behavior would just kind of like go away if she was just nice and fulfilled and tired, mentally and physically. And it didn't. I just created an athlete. And it was hard work. It got worse. And at one point I couldn't go out to dinner with my friends and family. I couldn't go on weekend getaways because I couldn't leave her alone in another person's house, or the family Cape cottage, because I was afraid she'd destroy stuff. I couldn't crate her because she'd break out of those wire crates. And I remember the night my stepfather had a heart attack, and Allie and I were in the middle of, training, and I was trying to kind of like rehab her from these issues. And I put her in the crate to leave because I didn't want to destroy the place. But I knew she'd be stressed out either way. I'd come back, and she had broken out. She was all out of breath and frantic. And so, that was like, you just imagine all the stress that I felt and how my dog was feeling. It was just a nightmare. So we finally did a lot of like, relationship-based training, balance training, where we focus on, relationship, yes and no, and just kind of resetting that relationship. She's not reactive anymore. She actually, I lived and worked at a training facility in Providence, Rhode Island for almost 4 years. We lived above a kennel, and I was still working at the school there part-time. I was living at the kennel, and she actually helped rehab aggressive dogs and reactive dogs and fearful dogs, because I was one of the staff there assisting the trainers. And Allie was a really crucial part of that program, to help build them up again. So yeah, we've been on quite a ride. And she's missing her two canines from trying to break out of a crate. She even bite at the doors of the house. The scratch marks all over it. And so the two canines are like chipped in half almost. So I have to be really careful with like raw meaty bones so she doesn't file them down too much. But man, I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute. It's just been such a journey. And I feel like I can never quite paint the picture of how it really felt to be there. I have no videos. I didn't journal when it was going on. I wish I did, because nobody believes me how awesome she is.
Oh yeah, there's lots. I believe you. I've growing up on my mom's rescue, we had animals that would like literally self-mutilate themselves.
That's awful.
Like if they couldn't find something to chew, they would just start chewing themselves. Like really, it's a terrible, terrible It's a terrible way to live for them, more importantly, but for the pet parent or the person, their guardian, it's a nightmare.
It is. And I can crate Allie now if I need to. I don't. She's free roaming my house when I leave, and she's safe. She gets a little bit anxious, but not to the point where she's destroying stuff and just hyperventilating where she feels like her heart's going to come out of her chest. Like, that's how it used to be. But I can crate her if in like an emergency, if she had to go to the vet and had to stay in a crate or whatever, she can be okay. Like, I've spent a ton of time reconditioning her to that. I think she'd love to be a farm dog. She really does well. She loves to nest. Yeah, she loves to nest. So she really likes to curl up in a ball on straw or hay. Like, that's really calming for her, creating that den environment. So
when did she first get sick?
I noticed it as she got older. I don't remember exactly when, but she was on pretty much every brand of dry dog food you could imagine. I was the classic, marketing. I would look at Blue Buffalo commercial, feed your dog like a wolf. I'd go to the store, buy it, or buy from the big fancy display, or with the big beautiful glossy pictures of the fruit and veggies and etc. But reading a label, the thought of reading a label stressed me out. I just saw the bag. I was like, oh, that must be good. I'm going to buy this. And, the more expensive bag, the $90 bag must be the best kibble ever. So I just went through, every bag imaginable, and she never really liked her food. She'd always had a loud, gurgly stomach. You could hear it like in another room. Like, that's how upset her stomach would be. And she'd always want to go outside frantically and just eat grass where she would just throw up. And I began to learn you're really big into, Julie, like listening to your animal. And I know when she's just munching on grass because she loves it. And I know when she's eating grass because she doesn't feel good and she wants to purge whatever that is. I'd bring her to the vet. She would take a couple licks of her food, a couple bites of her kibble or her wet food or whatever, and she'd just go lay down and walk away. Sometimes she'd eat her whole bowl because she'd get so hungry, right? She has to eat even if it's not sitting well or, in her stomach. But eventually she got sicker and sicker, and the vet was just giving her antibiotics after metronidazole, round after round, for diarrhea. For chronic diarrhea could range from like loose stool to, cow patties to bloody diarrhea with lots of mucus. I remember one.
That was her first, or your first, like, physical disease with her was
exactly
chronic diarrhea and GI stuff.
Chronic severe gastroenteritis, the vet called it, and she also had, like, they gave her, like, in addition to the antibiotic, they gave her a pill for nausea and a pill for appetite stimulant, and it was just something for every symptom. There was some kind of drug. And so I remember, like it was yesterday, sitting down in the vet clinic with my old conventional vet, and we were sitting on the floor, and the vet was petting Allie's belly, and she said GI stuff is tricky, and she referred me to Tufts, which is the big teaching hospital here in New England, in Grafton, Mass. And I went to see the internal medicine specialist, and I went to see the nutrition clinic. And the nutrition clinic just gave me a list of, like, limited ingredient dry dog foods and a list of approved human, treats, like, fruits and veggies and whatnot. And they said, just pour enough psyllium husk in her food to the point where her stool is nice and bulky. Of course, with like a limited ingredient food. And, she did good on that. She did good. But then, like, I started hearing stuff about raw feeding, and I was like, like, this is making sense to me now. Like, this is interesting. So I ended up switching her to a food called Volhard. And you know Wendy Volhard? No, and it's a good food. It's like a dehydrated mix with you add a protein. Yeah. And so, and it's a good food, but Allie didn't do well on it because it had all the stuff in the mix she was, like, sensitive to. So she had leaky gut, and they wanted to, a lot of gut trauma, and they wanted to do a biopsy. And I said, no, because I'm going to, I don't need to confirm. It's obvious that she has gut trauma, and I'm going to treat her like she has it, and just watch her and play around with it like that. And a lot of it I did on my own, because I was at that time, I was looking for a new vet, going to, bouncing from holistic vet to holistic vet. They weren't entirely holistic, but you know, until I felt like I found my match, you know, my partner in Allie's healthcare, which is now Dr. Margaret Roman, who you know. And you know, but in between all that, we would be in and out of the emergency room for the same stuff while we're trying to figure this out, you know, because eventually Allie got so sick. She had lost almost 10 pounds, looked emaciated. I have pictures still of her at the beach, and like just looking at her, she looked so skinny and emaciated, and just, she was not, I was worried I was going to lose her. I
Yeah.
remember being in tears at the emergency hospital. You know, it was super stressful trying to coach through. Feeding time was super stressful. You know, I was cooking everything and shoving food down her throat, syringing it, trying to get her to eat something, you know. And
So what happened? What happened next?
so what happened next was, somewhere in the middle of all this, I was, you know, looking her over for ticks one day because we were in the woods a lot, and I came across this hard red purplish lump on her inguinal area. How do you say that? Like this, yeah, the flap between her leg and her torso. And I brought her into the vet because I was like, "What is this?" And they aspirated it, which, you know, can make it pissed off, but luckily it didn't. And then 2 days later, they removed it, got clean margins, and it came back as, well, it was suspicious first of all, which what prompted the removal of it, and then it came back as low grade stage 1 mast cell tumor. So I didn't have to go to oncology. It hadn't spread. In the doctor's notes, they said you know, it was cured. But I had all these questions, like, how did we get here? How did she get this? So every day after work, I'd come home on my computer. This is 2015. And I would just Google, like, you know, I would just go down the rabbit hole of stuff. You know, I would start looking at, like, is this flea and tick med she's on? Is this safe? Is the heartworm medication she's on, is this safe? What about, you know, the water? What about the drugs? Everything. I was putting the pieces together, and it revealed, like, oh my gosh, like, now I know, like, how we got here. And, you know, every dog, like, I was just looking at a dog today, 20 years old, a golden retriever from I want to say Tennessee. And you don't know why some dogs live to be that old with no issues and eating kibble and getting all, you know, all this stuff. Who knows? I really.
Was 12 years old?
This dog is 20 years old. It celebrated his 20 years old birthday today. So it broke, you know, records. So that's I don't have the answers to that, but I know that a lot of the things that, like the metronidazole, I mean, the gut is 80% of the immune system. So I know that had something to do with it. And, you know,
So did we can go back and sort of track it, which it'll be fun to do. But what about, so then what happened? So the mast cell tumor.
So they removed it, and I was doing all my homework and talking to people online, which, you know, they were discouraging me, don't go to Dr. Google. And they're right. You know, you don't want to be, that can be dangerous. But at the same time, you know, we have an amazing community it's a small but amazing community of loving pet parents that want to do better for their dogs and want to learn more. And that should be encouraged, but don't, you know, you always have to run stuff by your vet. And I'm not a vet, so this is just my experience. But
it's important, because what I'm trying to do with you being on here is help people understand that they're not the only, that it's when you're faced with something like that, all the things that you can do, right? All the research that you can, all the information that is at your fingertips that you can look at, that you can start to investigate. So after, and it's relatable, right? Rather than just taking, you know, so many people they don't have access to a holistic vet in their community, or even 100 miles or 200 miles away from them, right?
Yeah.
So there's a billion people like that. So I just want people to understand that you can do some of that legwork and work with people long distance. And
well, that's a great point, because that leads me to, you know, reaching out to you. And so you said something, I don't know if it was you or Dr. Karen Becker who said something on the Stronger Together part about people wanting to be on the event and participate in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. You're not gonna, you can't unless you ask. You have to just ask. and put yourself out there. And so I reached out to you on your personal Facebook page one day. I said, hey, Julie, big fan. And could you come on my page and can I interview you? And I'm just going to pick your brain here. That's how it starts. And then I was introduced to Andrea Ring, and Andrea Ring is Allie's homeopath. And so working with Dr. Roman, I did the same thing with Greg Tilford, the animal herbalist. You just make all these connections, and it's just, you kind of just take bits and pieces from everyone, and you assemble your own team. If I had to go to a really awesome vet 3 hours away, I would do it. And I would try to assemble something at home here where I could do, like herbs and homeopathy and learn all about that stuff. So I'm not completely, feeling hopeless. One of the things I'm doing right now is I'm making ozone water. So yeah. I got a little oxygen tank here, drinking ozone water. That's this big glass jar here. Allie drinks it every day. I drink it every day. It's really good for you, bringing oxygen to your system, antiviral. But so, and just so many things you can do. That machine was initially $1,000, but now it costs me pennies a day, and I've had to use it so many times. Just things like that. I bought a red light therapy machine that came in the other day. So just constantly adding to my arsenal.
Tell me why you decided to do all that. Like, okay, and then tell us about all the different, because there's a few things going on with her that you believe is going on with her, and you've been told that's going on with her. Right. So how old is she now?
She's 11, and I kind of left something out. When we were at Tufts University in internal medicine, they thought she had Addison's disease, and they did, I think, an AC. I'm not super knowledgeable about this, but they tested her cortisol, and there was something off, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. And they said to me, what I'm always used to hearing, we don't know what's wrong, bring her back if she gets worse. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So back down the rabbit hole I went again. And I remember, when I went to go see Dr. Roman at MASH in my initial holistic consult with her, based on her history and the cancer, and she's like, your dog is most likely positive for Plechner syndrome. And we'll get into what that is in a minute. But I was like, no way. Like, I don't want to spend $300 on an endocrine immune blood test. And I want to just do what I want to do here. And I don't want to do that right now. So she got worse and worse and worse. And when
you say she got worse and worse and worse, what does that mean?
Just, she was still so emaciated. I was feeding her 2.5 pounds of raw food a day, and she was just ravenous about it. But she wasn't gaining any weight. She was losing. And so I was like, is it, EPI? Like, is it? And so she's on an enzyme. She's on all these beautiful supplements, colostrum and everything, but she's not, nothing's happening. So she's on we did the fecal transplant. So I remember saying to her, something's wrong here. And I did the Plechner test. And that's it's not Addison's, but it's a hormone imbalance like Addison. So there's so many different, complexities, and I think everything's different for every dog. But we tested her, and she was classic Plechner, which is, it's called ACEs, atypical cortisol estrogen imbalance syndrome. So elevated estrogen, low cortisol, low immunoglobulins like IgA, IgG, IgM, low thyroid. And we put her on the thyroid med, tyrosine. We put her on colostrum, put her on like, standard process, like enteric, immune, all that different support, nice diet, everything. And we retested her 4 or 5 months later. She got worse. Her numbers got worse. I'm like, what is going on? We put her on the enzyme, still didn't get better. And what ended up fixing that was she needed a B complex shot, C shot, and every couple of weeks A&D. But the B12, it made her, that week she gained 5 pounds because of how much I was feeding her. And her fur has grown back fuller and thicker and more, and we retested her. I ended up reaching out to Dr. Karen Becker on Facebook. And I did the same thing I did with you, Julie. I said, Dr. Becker, like, my dog's dying. I don't know what to do. And have you ever heard of Plechner syndrome? And she said to me, Peter, yeah, I have heard of it, but I can't give you medical advice. It's illegal. And she said to me, I know Dr. Pleckner very well, and we've been talking about doing a roundtable discussion for Mercola for several years now. I think it's about time we do it. And I said to her, I was like, he passed away. He passed away. And she was like, oh my God, what? I never heard her swear, but she, was like, what? You gotta be kidding me. And I didn't hear from her again that night. And then the following morning, she messaged me when I was at work. She reached out to his wife and his family and a bunch of vets who apparently didn't know either. And she realized she had an email from him in August, and he had passed away a week or two later in September. And when I met up with her and Rodney in Boston last December at MIT in Boston here, she said to me, she really thinks that he was reaching out to her because she has such a huge platform to give that information to her so she can help more people and bring this to more light in the mainstream. So I just got goosebumps. And 4 months later, she released on Inside Scoop. Maybe Kaylin can post. I'm sure everyone knows Inside Scoop. But she posted a big PDF on desexing dogs, which covered not just Cushing's, Pleckner, Addison's, all the hormone, endocrine, all of them. And at the very bottom, she posted usually like her suggestions, what she does. So I was like, you know what? It's worth a shot. So I'm going to give it 4, 5, 6 months on it and then retest it and see what happens. I did it.
Didn't you also contact Andrea in that time?
I am contacted Andrea, and I'm using the
put her on the estrogen. She put her on the state or feline or state. Right?
Yeah, and I really like that, and I refer a lot of people to Andrea, especially dogs with I'm really curious, like dogs with IBD. A dog that has Pleckner could have IBD and leaky gut, and just it could be so complicated. And I think with Allie, I don't know exactly what was going on, if she had SIBO or whatnot, but she had to get that vitamin shot to absorb. Otherwise, the pills, the vitamins, the supplements, everything would just be flushed down the toilet. She wasn't gaining from it. So I feel like with dogs with IBD that have sensitivities to like pork and beef, like a glandular could be made from pork and beef, the homeopathic remedy could be a great option for them because it's not, I don't understand how they could be sensitive to it. So I am so thankful for that remedy. So thankful for it.
Well, they can't be sensitive to it, but they also can't. It's the same hormone, so you're not getting the hormone from pork or from beef or from another species. Right. You're actually getting the hormone from a dog, right? Like canine. Right.
Exactly. I know a dog that's so sensitive. She's eating, cocoa. She's eating ground human grade emu, and just adding one supplement could just throw her off into a huge like flare, and it's like ends up in a hospitalization, and she also has Pleckner, and I'm like, well, contact Andrea, try the remedy. That could be the next step,
Yeah.
A fragile, delicate dog.
So then you did Karen's protocol, and then how is she now?
Her number, I remember texting you the new blood work, and the numbers are pretty much perfect. Her estrogen's pretty much in normal range, her cortisol is normal range. I've worked with Greg Tilford. I got her on licorice root herbal tincture. Talked to Chris Besant. It can raise apparently cortisol naturally, so I use that. Dr. Becker had said, you have to assess your environment, do like an estrogen sweep. So I don't feed her conventional produce, and even like organic produce can have organic pesticides. So I will throw it into like a big bowl of like ozone water and let it sit for 10 minutes or so, and then throw it back in the fridge. And I find it keeps it fresher longer too. But I changed her dog bed. I got an all natural, organic, non-toxic dog bed because she loves to lick the couch, the rugs, everything. And, I do liver tonic all the time, and I just really do all I can to, again, going back to taking little pieces of the puzzle, it all stacks and adds together to really, do an overall awesome job. And she's thriving. And it's sad to say that at 11 years old, she's finally thriving, and she has suffered her whole life. But man, am I thankful, because now I can share it with everybody. Yeah. And I'm hoping that.
So let's try and help people understand this a little bit when you talked about removing like her dog bed and all that kind of stuff, that's because of the hormone disruptor chemicals that can be sprayed on fabric and stuff, right? Yep. So I mean, a lot of what you're doing, even in a case where maybe she doesn't have the syndrome, or animals haven't been as sick as she has, or they haven't had mast cell tumors, and they haven't had leaky gut or whatever. I think what if we want to sort of dial this back, and then we'll dial it forward again, I think is that doing some of the steps that you have done. So we know that dogs, I mean, you have a whole cancer page, right? So we know how how it kind of is lurking around with canine cancer. So when we look at some of the steps that you've done to help her, I believe that a lot of the steps that you've done would help prevent other dogs from, or keep other dogs healthier, right? So removing hormone disruptors out of your house. I think it's called, Kaylin, I think you could probably put it in the chat. I think it's called ECWG or EGCW. I'll look it up and make sure that we give it to everybody. It's an incredible site.
It is.
That can lists exactly what's in everything from your cosmetics to your creams. Because even when you're rubbing cream on yourself, first of all, it could be really bad for your own hormone disruptors, and then you have your dog comes and licks you, or your cat licks you, or your cat rubs up against you. So you're literally transferring it onto your pets, right?
Yep.
I think they teach us so much. So that, and cleaners that have that in it. And
another amazing thing about the Inside Scoop is they did a whole thing on making your own home cleaners, and this is just a recycled glass spring bottle with half vinegar, half water, and citrus peels and rosemary and grapefruit seed extract drops, and it smells wonderful. It does a great job. Good old grain alcohol, Castile soap. I mean, just safe stuff.
Really safe stuff, like super duper safe stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that helped with that syndrome, right? Because you want to make sure that the pathways to all of your hormone waterfall,
yes,
there's nothing blocked, right? There's nothing blocked with whether it's a cortisol estrogen blockage, or whether there's aldosterone or progesterone. It doesn't really matter. Thyroid. We want to make sure that all the hormones are as healthy as we can for our pets and for ourselves. So that's one amazing thing that you learned.
Yeah.
That is lifelong for whatever pet you have, whoever you speak to, and then the other thing was, your realization about food, obviously, like commercial food compared to fresh food.
Yep. And I have her on a homemade ketogenic diet, or actually more like a lifestyle, right? It's not just about the diet, but really, Karen Becker has talked to me about, that diet for her, because with keeping her age in mind, etc. So a couple of days, 3 or 4 days a week, she's on a high fat ratio, between 1:1 and 2:1, and I work with somebody on balancing this. And then I also, you can lose weight quickly on keto. Like I'm doing keto now. I just started a week ago. It's I feel good, but you can lose weight quick, and that's why a lot of people do it. So I don't want her to lose weight and muscle mass. So after 4 days of getting her into deep ketosis, which is also helping to, I don't want to make claims here, but for her cancer history, I also have her on that because I'm scared of the mast cell cancer coming back to a certain degree, to a certain point. And she has a couple lumps on her that we're watching. We're not doing nothing, but we're doing stuff, proactively. But so 4 days deep ketosis, cycle her out of ketosis, ramp up her protein to keep her weight and muscle back on her, and then 1 day a week faster with a raw fatty marrow bone for a day and a half. That way she has that mental, physical, emotional well-being. And I feed it to her in the woods. She's getting all this healthy soil on it. We can get into that too, but the diet's really important. I guess from what I know, it's anti-inflammatory. It can be really good for hormones, and so that's why she's done really, really well on keto.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think Karen has, I don't know if she has a book. Does she have a keto book? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
I think she's got a
Oh,
lot of information on it though.
the Dog Cancer Series DVD where they travel the world, and that's what, yeah.
I think, yeah. So, but I think it's important to have help if you're going to do keto,
Yeah,
right?
you can do a lot of harm. You can do a lot of harm. So you don't want to wing it. It's not for everybody.
No.
It's not as simple as just throwing a few ingredients, low carb, moderate protein, high fat. Not simple. That you can do a lot of harm by doing that, just to let everybody know.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that if whoever is interested in that and is doing that is doing it with some guidance initially, at least,
Right.
until they understand. So I think that so what you've done is you've looked at diet, you played and been really focused on diet. You didn't give up, and you were adamant about that there was something still wrong, even because what's so interesting is that your cortisol levels affect your gut so much. So you could be trying to heal the gut and you could be doing excellent food, but when your cortisol levels are out of balance, it plays havoc on your gut. So really, she was just in this vicious circle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is that, like, she was in the car, like, just certain triggers, just really, really stressed. Like, she'd be like panting. Like, I have videos of her, just, you feel like her heart's going to pop out of her chest. And it was stressful for me. It would distract me from my driving, just going from the city to my parents' house, just 30, 40 minutes. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And once I got her hormone levels balanced, that she lays down in the car. She pants a little bit because she doesn't like, I'm not a good driver. I'm not the best driver, but if it's not like it was. She'll lay down and rest in the car. It's just amazing. So, I do feel like, in the beginning when I started doing Karen's protocol, yes, it's more expensive to do all grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised meats, but conventional, it's going to have the hormone, the cortisol. And so I wanted to really go hard or go home. Like, I wanted to really give this a shot to see if it's going to work. And then, if I really had to give her a conventional meat, I would, but I try not to, but I think that that's a big part of it too,
Yeah.
Eating good quality, really about ethical.
I think, yeah. So if we're in a place where it's like, is it grass fed? Is it is it organic? Is it this? Is it that? I think people can't afford everything, that they should be really looking from that perspective at ethically raised, because you're definitely not going to have the cortisol levels, right?
Sure.
What about, I know that you're pretty passionate about your thoughts because of how young she was spayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we should touch on that a little bit, about how your feelings on that and what you thought, and I can chime in on it too. But
well, you actually taught me a lot, and because Allie was sick, once I learned that the early spay, certainly didn't help the situation. I'm not going to say it caused it, like 100%, but it was a huge factor. And for a while before you and I did our live together, our 2-hour live, which I rewatched the other day, it's phenomenal. I was like, no spay and neuter, like, at all, nothing. And then you taught me that it is appropriate in certain situations, and you really can't be this blanket, because if you're just no spay and neuter, like 100%, like no if ands or buts about it, you're just as bad as the ones that are doing it, like, using it as a blanket statement. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. But there are appropriate situations. And so I think that, I'm a responsible pet owner, and I would never let Allie run around outside making babies. But when you do have an intact animal, a lot of responsibility comes with it. And that includes, like, you have a female, learning about pyometra, what that could look like, and keeping it in the back, not freaking out about it, but keeping it in the back of your head. Just, you never know. If your animal goes off food or they're lethargic, like, it's a possibility, right? So you want to always learn about that stuff, do your research, and talk to your vet, and don't just, push it aside and say,
I think it's going to be a big problem because, these dogs that are in rescues need homes, right? And a lot of them are going to be spayed and neutered really, really young.
yeah,
So it's almost like, no, don't turn your back on them and go, purchase a dog that just because it's not going to be spayed and neutered. I think it's important that we support rescues, but I think that we can be more aware, right? So, my view on spay and neuters is, well, I'm not even going to get into it. Like when it comes to young spay and neuters, right? I feel like the thought behind it came from a really integral place of trying to decrease the overpopulation of dogs and cats. I get that. I think what they didn't think, it's almost like they chose something and didn't think of the consequences, right? They only thought about it in the immediacy. Oh, this will help.
right.
And I get that. And I think in certain situations in certain countries where, there's a lot of feral dogs and they're poisoned and they're beaten and they're shot, they're trapped, and they're like, it's terrible. I think that's appropriate, right? To when they get trapped, just to have them done whatever age they are.
Right.
But I think that for people that are out there right now going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because my dog or my cat has been spayed and neutered under the age of 8 weeks. And, is it going to be like another Allie? Is it going to be this? Or it's important to look at, okay, it's been done. So let's now be proactive of what we know could be the ramifications of that happening.
Right.
So, doing, getting the spay and neuter homeopathic remedies from Andrea, making sure they're on really, really good food, making sure that they have good gut health, and Karen's glandulars. There's a lot of things we can do to be proactive with that. And I think you talking to people and telling people your experience of what happened to you, that's because, you got her, she was compromised on probably many different levels. Probably her microbiome was really poor. Then she was spayed and neutered, and then she was, she was terrified, which is probably because of her microbiome and stuff. Breathe through your nose. And so for people to pay attention to that, right, and to try and to derail it as much as possible, look at the estrogen stuff in your house. But also, if something does start to derail, all the things that people could be looking at outside of the guidance from conventional clinics that may not have those tools in their toolbox, or may not even be aware of certain syndromes or situations that could arise from that.
I was visiting I do dog training part-time. Allie got me into it. And so I go around town, work with people in their homes. And one of my clients we're training their 6.5-month-old yellow lab. And the husband at the very end told me, he's about to get spayed and is about to get neutered. His name is Hunter. And because he's humping the bed comforter a lot, and they want to calm him down. And he asked me what my opinion was on that. Is it too young? And I was really careful with what I said. I said, you know what, I personally wouldn't. But here I emailed him. He asked for the information, so I emailed him our video. I emailed him. I went to send it to Dr. Karen Becker's page, and just let them make their own decision, what's best for their family and lifestyle. But I just told them about my experience with Allie, and because when you say don't do something that the vet is saying to do, all of a sudden they're all eyes and ears. They're all listening to you, and you got to be careful because you don't want to sound like, you know what I mean? You don't want to, you just got to be careful.
Well, and the other thing is that everybody, like when I have my clinic, I went back and did a functional medicine program and learned that there's different levels of everything, right? Like that's what I was going to say. Like for people out there right now that are watching this that have really, really sick dogs, it could sound overwhelming with what you did, right? Like everything that you did. People, that have 3 kids and they're driving them around and they're, well, maybe not right now doing soccer and things like that, but it takes a lot of time and attention to have a bunch of children or to, both parents working to go, oh my gosh. But I think that there is a comfort point with everybody's stuff, but I don't think you can get there. You get there by baby steps, right? And all of our personalities are different. Like your baby steps was to look at food, right?
Yeah.
And then your next step was this, and then your next step was that. I think if someone's really busy and they're overwhelmed and they have a really sick animal, the best thing to do is to reach out, even from distance, to like Dr. Margot, to Karen, to Andrea, to I can't say me because I'm not taking that, but I could at least our team, right? Well, it's because I work so much with conventional vets, helping conventional vets from a holistic perspective.
That's awesome.
On more animals, I just can't. But
it's really important.
It is important because every time I work with a conventional vet and they reach out to me and go, I don't have anything left to do of my whatever. And I sort of guide them through that. They're usually blown away. And the next thing I know, they're taking some kind of integrative medicine course, right?
Well, however many thousands of vet students graduate a year, I mean, like not to sound depressing, but you, Karen Becker, Dr. Roman, Andrea, like all these wonderful, amazing people that are like, really helping everyone, you guys are not going to be around forever. And so what happens when, you know what I mean? I'm not saying, but like, all these vet students graduating a year, we really need to be training more functional common sense, more homeopaths, more like, you know what I mean? Because we can't all just go to you. You only got 2 hands.
What's going to drive that are people like you.
Thank
So
you.
It does, because what drives industry change is, and it's terrible to consider pets as consumable things or consumers, but they are. So educating yourself so that you can go to your veterinarian and say, I learned this, I saw this, I read this, here's in a very kind, open, conversational way. What that does is I want you to work with me, but if you can't, then I'm going to try and find someone that is open to holistic medicine or someone that does do some integrative therapies or whatever. That is what's going to make the biggest change is people wanting it, people demanding it, really.
Exactly. You couldn't be more true. And before, I know we got to answer probably questions and it's getting late, but I want to show a couple of things that I've done that were really huge in helping her heal and get better, which, I love to show the microbiome, Dr. Roman's 5th generation dog's microbiome. She gets a little tiny piece every day. Really, really wonderful. The other awesome thing, Julie, you're going to love this, you're going to freak out, is I reached out to White Oak Pastures, where I get her food in Bluffton, Georgia. They ship it to me frozen on ice. But after I watched the interview with Rodney and Steve Brown on the Canine Healthy Soil Project, getting healthy soil from regenerative, can never say that word right, farming and agriculture, I said, hey, can I have some? They do that too. So I said, hey, can I have some of your dirt? And I give her just a gram a day in her food. Or I sprinkle some in her raw meaty bone and let her go enjoy it in the woods, because she never had this. When she was a puppy, let's just say if she was in the crate and she wet herself, like we'd take her out, spritz it with the chemical cleaner, put her back in, and she's getting that in her paw, so puppies are kept in sterile environments today, and she never had access to this, and so I love this, and I'm actually curious, like, I don't know the right way to store it. I keep it in the fridge with the cap off, but I don't know if I'm ruining the microbes and the bacteria, but maybe you have a suggestion for that.
Oh, like a cool, dark place. Some are cool, but where it's dark.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for years. I wrote an article for Dogs Naturally, I don't know how many years ago, called It's All About the Dirt. And, telling people, like, don't wash it off their body, let them roll in it, let them play in it. Go, if you live in an apartment, go buy a kiddie pool and fill it up with dirt and hide bones in it, hide treats in it, like get organic soil and organic dirt into them. As much diversity as you can. If you can go visit a horse farm, and then next time go see a sheep farm, and then go into the forest, and so you get all kinds of diversity in the soil as well, right?
Exactly.
But,
I took Allie to the farm to pick up some rock bovine colostrum because I drink it, she drinks it, and it came in this big plastic, container, like $40, and I just defrost it a little bit, put it in these glass mason jars, refreeze it, and I just love to stock up on it when I can, when there's a lot of it, because obviously it's got to go to the babies, and that's really important. It's really, really, so I always made sure I asked those questions. I'm like, what about the babies? Are they getting it? I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like taking it from them, so I could rest my head on the pillow at night and sleep, because that's the kind of person I am. Like, I really care. I'm an animal lover. Everyone's my fur baby, right? It's crazy. So I just, when we were at the farm, I took Allie with me, and she was like, it's a beautiful farm, and she was I caught her rolling in placenta on the grass.
Oh.
And so, I didn't wash her after that. I didn't. Like, I'm not going to give her a bath with Dawn dish soap and like get it off you. Like, no, I haven't bathed her in so long.
Yeah, well, that's the whole, we know that even for children's, like babies, right? Is that one of the first things that we do with human babies that we're stopping now because of the research. But the first thing that we do that destroys their immune system is we bathe them as soon as they're born, right? Yeah. And that whole covering of, vaginal bacteria is what kickstarts their immune system, and it's supposed to stay on them. It's not supposed to be washed off. So the skin bacteria is equally as important as gut bacteria.
In the oral microbiome, and like I feel like I had so much catching up to do. I mean, her mouth was her teeth were so dirty, and so like I'll let her chew on a raw meaty bone, supervised. I'll rub a little bit of like ozonated olive oil on her gums if they're bleeding a little bit. Feed her some dirt. I try to play catch up a little bit. Obviously, there's no completely erasing everything that's been done, but I sure hope she lives a lot longer than 15, but I hope she lives to at least 15. If I do things right. Let me tell you something really just happened recently. This is kind of a testament to how I've cared for her, and she feels good in her body. She was at my parents in the backyard playing around doing zoomies with my parents' 2-year-old beagle Shadow, and he can't catch her. She's 11 and he's 2, and she's going crazy and going to the mulch and digging and doing zoomies around the tree. Well, she slammed into a wheelbarrow held up by a cinder block and a little step ladder on top, and she came out limping, and I'm like, oh my, no. So Dr. Roman called me. She's like, Arnica 200C, get her into, luckily we already had a chiropractic appointment set up the next day, so we did that, and I did ozone subcutaneous saline in her hind end to reduce inflammation, help with pain, and within 24 hours I still kept her nice and calm with no more trail walks for like a week, but oh my gosh, and I feel like it's those non-toxic choices that are really going to, like you said a good thing to me, Julie, I want her to be happy, dead. Like I want that I don't want this long drawn out thing. And I think the way that I get there is by really not, for as long as possible, just pushing away those drugs, the conventional drugs. I'm not against using them, but like you know, why when I can first go to these things, you know? So,
It should be your last resort if you're going to resort to anything.
yeah.
We do have a question or two here, guys. If
Okay.
yeah, so this one is for Peter. It's from April. Thanks, April.
April.
I bought fresh grass-fed and finished colostrum from the farm for Raven. How much can I give? She's 32 pounds. I've been giving 1.5 tablespoons.
Is it I wonder if it's a liquid or I mean I don't I would I'm not sure. I don't want to give any dosing advice, but I pour a little bit in her food and I just eyeball it. That's what I do. I don't really measure, you know, that out, but I'm not sure. Julie, what would you have to say about that?
What did you say she had, Kaylin? Sorry.
Colostrum. So it's fresh grass-fed and finished colostrum. She didn't say if it was a liquid or a powder.
Okay, it sounds like it's a liquid. If it's a liquid, what I always say with that is just to start small. Start with a small amount, like a tablespoon, and then you can work up. Right, you can work up to a little bit more, but it's not something that you want to give huge amounts of all the time, right? Because it is the ignition to the immune system, right? It's igniting. It is boosting and stabilizing. It's pretty powerful, and you know, like we were even talking about herbs on the panel at the event. It's not always like, you know, more is better, because that really isn't the case. So I would only, what kind of dog is it? Did she say? You're muted, Kellen.
It's a she didn't say what kind of dog.
Okay. So an average size dog, I wouldn't give more than a Shar-Pei mix. I wouldn't give more than a tablespoon.
So that's about what she's giving now.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, we got a couple questions here. Kim, oh, sorry, Kaylin, I don't want to take your job.
No, that's okay. I keep muting and unmuting because my dogs are getting playful suddenly. So while I was muted, they were absolutely quiet and sleeping. Now they're playful. So Kim wanted to know about a collapsed trachea. She says herbs or homeopathy. She's feeling hopeless. My dog had a syncope episode last week. I'm not sure I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And I don't use chemicals in my house. Have an appointment with a cardiologist to make sure it's not heart related.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Julie, you're muted.
As far as that goes, I think homeopathy is really, really powerful for collapsing tracheas. You know, again, making sure that diet's good, nothing tight around their neck. I would also not, I mean, I know animals love, like, and they're so important, bones, but just be really careful that anything that they're chewing isn't going to scratch the trachea, irritate the trachea. Make sure that they have a harness, but homeopathy is incredible, and so is chiropractics. Chiropractics for trachea stuff is really important. But once the things like collagen is incredible for anything, because that's basically what the trachea is. So in Chinese medicine, we often look at you know, if something is wrong with the eyes, feeding eyes, right? Feeding eyes, feeding kidney for kidneys, feeding liver for liver. So for tracheas, collagen is really important to get all and do all three types of collagen. So chiropractics, homeopathy, I would get a hold of Andrea. Collagen, and make sure that they're eating good food. I can hear my guinea hens now.
You got to go?
Okay. So Heather said, hi, Julie. Hi, Peter. During your last Q&A, you mentioned my cat with food allergies and inflammatory issues might have Pleckner's syndrome. Is there a specific lab that I should test through? She's also on the animal biome fecal transplant pills with extremely slow progress. Wondering if you're in Peter's thoughts about adding ion biome to her regime.
This is ion biome. It's Julie, it's made from soil. It's 60 million year old soil. It's just the humic and fulvic acid, which is in phytophthora. So I'm interested to know what you would say. I didn't know. I thought cats were off the hook as far as effects of spay and neuter. That's what I always thought, but apparently not.
No, I have a cat with it. I'm sure that's with it. And I think, I don't know whether the reason that I'm thinking that is because I just don't think enough cats get a bad break as far as research goes. Not a lot of cat research, nothing in comparison to dogs. And the reason that I think that they didn't know what was wrong with her. And I did more tests on her, and they were looking at an aldosterone disease. They were looking at Addison's. They were looking at everything because her cortisol levels are just so bad. And I just went ahead and started treating her for it. And she's doing, thank God, touch wood, she's doing amazing. And I feel like, so where do you, this person that wants to know about testing, we can't even get testing done in Canada. So I don't know if this person's from Canada or the US, but you would have to, where do you get it? Do you want to tell her how you got it done? And maybe she can.
So you would just want to go to the website, Dr. Plechner. So drplecchner.com, drplechner.com. And there's a whole section on testing in the lab. I think it's National Vet in Texas. And I think they're the only lab that does the endocrine immune blood test, which is testing for like the total estrogen, the cortisol, the T3, T4, low immunoglobulins, adrenal insufficiency. So yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I think that as far as like what it would cost would be dependent on the clinic and the vet. But yeah, I would start there. Go to that website. It's confusing. It's confusing. I have also read Dr. Plechner's book called Pets at Risk, From Allergies to Cancer and Epidemic, and it's confusing as heck. I'm actually working with his family and the national vet, and I'm trying to make my own website that's more simplified, and it's going to have sections on microbiome and just everything, kind of like a what do you call that? Growing up when I was reading a book, the Cliff Notes a little bit.
Our Cole's Note version.
Yeah. But it's not going to be done for a long time, and I actually really want to put my focus on doing like a hormone summit with Julie and more. I think just because there's so much unknown about all this, and every situation is unique.
Yeah, it's why it's so upsetting. It's why almost every single one of my, like, I don't believe in too much in prophylactics with homeopathy, but I feel like it was one of the best things that we ever started at our clinic was every single spay and neuter animal went on the spay and neuter protocol. And it would depend on what level we thought maybe they were compromised in with how often they got it, right? Like, I don't know what Andrea has put you on. And then we couldn't get it anymore. Adored Beast couldn't get it anymore. We weren't allowed to bring it over with the FDA. So Andrea's really lucky because she can still do it and use it. So make sure that everybody has in the chat Andrea's information. Contact information about it, because it's so expensive, right? It's not like it costs a fortune, and it's such an incredible thing.
No, I don't want to overwhelm everybody with what I'm going to say, but you made me think of something that happened, and I'm doing constant healthy soil and constant microbiome poop, and I'm also doing, I'm really into like the whole biohacking thing, and I'm listening to Dr. David Sinclair, a longevity researcher out of Harvard. I don't know if you know that name, but I'm giving Allie, and I'm taking myself, and I got my parents to start taking NMN, which is nicotinamide mononucleotide. So it's a NAD plus precursor. And I've heard that as you age. So I was wondering, Allie is so damaged. Like, I'm wondering how homeopathy, like when your body's so damaged, can you properly utilize homeopathy as well as you should, especially with how toxic the world is. And I do a ton of ozone rectally, rectal insufflation gas. And what happened was she heard, this week was freaky. It all happened in 1 week. Outside we had construction. And she hates, a truck beeping up, beep, beep, beep. She acts like the sky's going to fall and didn't react at all. Didn't blink an eye. And I went over to my cabinet because she picked her head up like she's concerned, going back to like listening to her animals. And I'm not freaking out, but I calmly go over here. I grab my Aconite 1M, my phosphorus 200C, calmly go over and give it to her very intentionally. And she goes back to lie on the couch, rests her head down calm. And another thing happened where we had a thunderstorm and rainstorm, another huge trigger. Did the same exact thing. She did not get phased whatsoever. And I'm like freaking out, like, what is going on? Like, we've struggled with this all our lives. I wonder if there was a specific bacteria in the soil or the poop that she was missing, the gut-brain connection, or I don't know why all of a sudden the homeopathy then decided to work. Am I giving her the NMN is the cellular, piece of it, or is it all just?
I think everything plays into everything, right? But I think that from a gut perspective, I'm writing an article on the gut brain axis and how it really works, right, for the Science of Nature magazine that's coming out Friday. And yeah, so for anyone that didn't register for the live event, they should still register, because if they do that, they'll get the free recordings and the magazine. But it's incredibly important because the gut talks to the brain, right? And if the gut's not healthy, it's not telling the brain that everything's okay. So there's no uptake of serotonin or any kind of feel good chemicals. So you can't have a healthy emotional or a healthy brain without having a healthy gut. They work hand in hand. So that's one thing. I think that giving, what is really kind of cool is that because homeopathy is energetic, you don't get as much of a interference, right? Because it doesn't have to go through the blood-brain barrier. It doesn't have to go through the gut. It doesn't have to be going into a healthy gut. It works. Not saying that it all doesn't work together, because what'll happen is you'll start seeing you won't have to use the remedies as often. Sometimes you have to use the remedies more often when the rest of the body is so compromised, right? So they need it more. But as the body gets healthier, often you'll see that you don't need to use it as often. So that's probably what's happening, right? Is it's going like that. And we're going to be coming out with some precursors for animals like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of stuff with that right now. And it's I wrote an article about that as well. And I think that it was like a year ago, I think. And I think it would be awesome to do a hormone summit, because I think it's so underestimated, and I think it's the one thing. The microbiome, it doesn't matter whether you're a dog, a horse, cat, a pig, there's not a lot of people, the majority of the world is walking around, whatever species you are, with not a very healthy gut. That's one thing. But I also feel we're all walking around with really, really, like, our balance of hormones are not very good.
Yes.
No matter how we have too many things that are interrupting them. For women, they're going on the pill too young. For guys, you're drinking stuff that's got estrogen in. Like, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It's in our GMO foods, right? As we're ingesting it. I think our hormones are all over the map. So, but before we go, what I really want to ask you though is, from an overwhelmed pet parent person, from starting off with a dog that was really difficult to handle emotionally, moving into very difficult physically. What's the one thing that you would want to tell everybody? Is there anything?
I think there were two moments when Allie had cancer and when I realized there was a hormone imbalance with her, and I didn't want to do the conventional treatment, which was low physiological dose of prednisone, because I did it for 2 months. She wasn't doing well, and it was like, this is the beginning of the end. Can't be on this the rest of her life. But there was two moments when the cancer and that happened, is that a switch inside of me flipped, and I was like, I don't care how long it takes, come hell or high water, I'm going to figure this out. There's somebody out there in this world that's got a dog like Allie with these issues, and they're treating it in different ways, alternative ways. There's somebody out there. I'm going to find them, and I'm going to pick their brain, and I'm going to fix this. I don't care how long it takes. So that's what happened. It takes time, but I think a lot of people just feel helpless. And I think, yeah, it's stressful, but find ways to manage your stress. Hiking is a big thing for me. Journaling, I go on top of a summit and just take out my notepad. I journal. Allie's laying next to me. It's just one of my, watch the sunrise or the sunset. And that's just you got to have outlets, and you got to have support, whether it be family, friends, someone to talk to. We have an amazing, beautiful online, small, like-minded community. Utilize each other as support. Don't attack each other. We need to be stronger together, right? So it's just, those would be my two things, is that stay calm and grounded and cool, and just, it will be okay, and you will figure it out. But it's stressful because our animals are so damaged today, and it's hard. I sympathize with everybody with who has a sick animal and is struggling to figure it out, put the pieces together.
Mm-hmm. And I would add to that I think that when we are searching for something for our animals, inevitably it's something that we're searching for ourselves.
Yep. Right.
What we learn from a emotional, pathological, physical place about everything, like the environment and toxicities and whatever, is only guiding us to a healthier life in ourselves, right? In ourselves and in our families and in our community. So rather than just focusing on your animal, I try and tell people to just step back and look at it as a whole. So don't focus so much about,
got to get the dog better. Got to get the dog better.
Got to get the dog better. Got to get the dog better. It's like, what's going on? Like, what is actually going on from a much higher level perspective? Let me look down. Let me look at my house. Let me look at my bedding. Let me look at my bedding, what I'm sleeping in. Let me look at my stuff I'm putting on my body. I feel like our animals are here to guide us to get better. And I think it instead of looking at it like I am responsible whether this love of my life dies, it's more like this is a lesson. I'm learning so much from this. What can I learn from this? It kind of takes the pressure off, of feeling like you're so, like you're responsible for this amazing creature, which we are. Yeah. But I think it's a much bigger picture.
And also, like you just, like the bedding, like all the, everything, the little things will stack and can turn into big things. So but also I think it's important to just let yourself off the hook. You can't change everything overnight. Maybe you're aware that the bedding you're sleeping on is toxic, but maybe it's right now, my couch is not organic. I take an organic cotton sheet and I throw it over the couch because I know Allie's going to lick it, but it's cheaper than replacing the whole couch. So do what you can, but also like set goals for yourself. I'll save up, put aside a little bit of money every week or every month for my organic comforter and my bedding. But like, it's you're not going to change it overnight. So don't stress yourself out. It's not going to help the situation.
No, it's not. And I think that, when you're talking about that thing like fulvic and humic acid, it's good. Like, that's just because what you can be doing is you can be you can be taking something that helps you detoxify, right?
Yep.
And your animals detoxify at the same time as you're making baby steps.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Kaylin,
Hi.
it's already quarter after.
Yes.
No, I could
Yes.
just-
Thank you very much. I think we're gonna call it a night. We have a couple more questions, but if you guys want to email questions at adoredbeast.com, just send them to me, and I will make sure we either get them to Julie or Peter, and we'll get you answers.
Hey, Julie,
Yeah.
would you mind just hanging on for a second after we go off here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, guys.